Hello, reporter room investigators. Come on in, come on in. Today we have breaking news in the Celeste Rivas Hernandez David case. Put down whatever you're doing, grab yourself some water, some soda, some coffee, whatever it is that you like to drink, maybe some sweet tea. Cozy up to me. We are going to need to talk about this today. So today we're going to be talking about what the LAPD knows about who was actually driving the Tesla. We're going to talk about why the police were called to the mansion. Why were they really there? The date the Tesla was parked with Celeste inside, proof that David knew Celeste and people knew what he was doing with Celeste. I'm watching my words here. And can the LAPD prove their case without knowing exactly what happened to Celeste? I think they can. I'm going to tell you why. And then the prosecutor has spoken out. And what are the enhanced legal penalties that the perpetrator of this crime should be charged with and should be implemented? Let's get started. Please come on in. Tell me where you're from. You can tell me what country, what state, what city, anything that you want to share. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. The Reporter Room family, it's free and it helps me out a lot. This video is for adults only and viewer discretion is advised, and everyone is innocent until proven guilty, and David has not been charged with a crime. So come on in and tell me where you're from, and let's start off by talking about the Ashley Banfield show. We have a lot of stuff to unpack, but let's start there because I think that's a good jumping off point. So this was on News Nation yesterday, and Steve Fisher was on, and well, Ashley Banfield, because remember, who hired Steve Fisher, the private investigator? The owner of the mansion did, right? The owner of the mansion did. So it turns out that Steve Fisher found out that authorities are trying to get video surveillance that he was able to find on who was actually driving the black Tesla. So let's go ahead and listen in.
The rotting corpse inside was ticketed and towed away. That somebody may or may not have had a hand in the runaway's death, but my money.
So I just want to do a quick sound check. Could you guys hear that okay? And I also want to move myself out of the way. Could you hear that okay? Just a quick yes or no. Can you guys hear the sound on the interview with Steve? And Jazz, can you hear the sound on the interview with Steve? Yes? Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jazz. Thank you, Michael. Okay, let's go.
Is on yes. And more than a month after this mystery first hit the headlines with the discovery of the decomposing body of Celeste Rivas Hernandez, the name of that somebody is as unknown to us officially as ever, but apparently not to everybody. The identity of the person who abandoned that Tesla, a filthy luxury car owned by the singer David, with David's 14-year-old girlfriend dead inside, is now known to investigators. And tonight, we're learning that both the car and driver were captured on surveillance video the last time that car was apparently driven by anyone.
Okay, so just think about this. You have a $100,000 car, and you've never reported it stolen. You've never reported it missing. It's parked around the corner from where you live, but is this really going to be that hard of a case? I don't think it's going to be as hard as people are making it out to be, because I don't think a jury is going to have, believe that this black Tesla was parked around the corner from where the mansion was, where David was living, but he didn't know where the car was. $100,000 car. We're not talking about, a $500 junker here. We're talking about a $100,000 vehicle, which costs, that's a lot of money for most people.
Even better, we've learned the driver was visible enough in that footage to be identified later on. LA police are not talking about this or anything else in the Celeste death investigation. The bombshell video was unearthed by the private investigator hired by the owner of the house where David lived up until a couple of weeks after Celeste was found dead in his car.
And get this, not only did Steve Fisher, we're going to hear from him next, not only did he talk to Ashley Banfield, but he also appeared on Law and Crime. And we're going to talk about what he said there also. So please stay with me.
And that's not the only piece of evidence that the PI unearthed. That investigator's name is Steve Fisher, and he joins me now live. Steve, welcome back to the program. How certain are you that this video of the car driving away from David's mansion is the last time it drove and ended up at the spot where it was abandoned, likely with that body inside?
I'm certain. Listen, I can't say 100% because there's not a camera trained on that Tesla once it's parked. Continuously that I've seen. I mean, there likely is a camera, but I've seen the car driven to that spot, and with the dates, with the date that it was, and they left town right after that. I'm certain.
Okay, so they left town right after that. So was there more than one person in the car? Was David driving the car with someone else, or is he just using they to not share who he believes? Who he believes is behind the wheel of the car. What do you guys think?
That is the last time the car was driven. It was put there with her, in the front trunk.
And there's one weird detail about what you could, well, there's a lot of weird details, and I'm going to get to what you saw through the driver's side window in a second.
So something really critical jumps out at me here. He says she was in the front trunk. So Steve Fisher believes that Celeste was in the front trunk when that car was driven from the mansion and parked a couple of streets away, where it was ultimately ticketed a couple of times and then towed to an impound lot. Okay, so that's really crucial, that he believes she was already in the front trunk when this drive occurred. So whoever was in this vehicle is on the hook for this. There's no way they didn't know. But wait, we're going to hear about an air freshener too, you guys.
But there was an air freshener that was found in the car at this point that we see on our screen, where it was abandoned. Was that air freshener also hanging from the rear view mirror when it drove off from David's house?
It wasn't, but the window was half to 3/4 of the way down, which is odd because it was a very short drive. And also at that on that day, this is the very end of July 29th, it was like 78 degrees at that time in the morning. All right.
Okay, so we know that they drove the car. So before they went out of town, right? So we don't know if they is just one person and he's being cryptic. He doesn't want to say the male or the female. But we also know that they went out of town, and now we're learning that it was parked July 29th. And law enforcement did tell us that Celeste had been in the vehicle for weeks. Remember, she was found one day after what should have been her 15th birthday on September the 8th. So she was in the trunk of that car from July 29th onward. And the windows were cracked down. And then all of a sudden, after the car is parked, then somebody pops an air freshener in? Really?
77 degrees. And if it was on the street where the house is, so it's shaded by the house. So, if you're going, I don't know what the window would be rolled down unless there's something, offensive there. And then all of a sudden, one of the first things I picked up on when the news first broke about the her being found in there, where they were towing the car away from the impound lot to LAPD, was why on a $104,000 car is there a Christmas tree air freshener hanging from the from the mirror? It seemed kind of odd to me, but I guess maybe they thought that would help, mask it for when they had to move the car again.
Now, when Steve appeared on Law and Crime, he shared a little bit more information that I'm going to share with you. He believes that this was a plan to get rid of Celeste, and said that the scary part, that's scary with sisters, of this doesn't have anything to do with the circumstances of how she was actually done away with. Rather, he thinks it was just part of the disposal process. So according to Steve Fisher, he thinks that the original plan of whatever they were planning to do with Celeste and David's 2023 Tesla was supposed to be a temporary place to hide Celeste. And then ultimately, maybe he told people in the house that she drove off with the car too. Who knows what they were told. But then we get this mysterious addition of the air freshener. But wait, there's more.
if there was that smell at that time, because again, we have no idea when Celeste started decomposing in that trunk. We don't know if she'd been decomposing in the trunk for a long time before it ended up being the car ended up being abandoned. But talk to me about the date of this video, July 29th, and talk to me about what you saw. What did you see in terms of the identity of the person driving through that open window?
So it's very clearly that Tesla, one, because the Tesla has that tape on the rear spoiler for whatever reason. I don't know why it's there. And also, it was just like it is in that picture. It was that dirty, except you could tell that they had run the windshield wiper like once to clear the dirt away so they could see. And it comes very close to the camera, although there is some motion blur, but you can see the person and you can see what they're wearing, something pretty distinctive. And there's photos that I have from 12 hours earlier, a person at the house wearing the same thing.
Okay, so we know it's somebody that's at the house, that was in the house 12 hours early. So that probably rules out Josh, the manager. Maybe it doesn't, but that's my opinion. I think that's, we're getting closer and closer to, I believe we're going to find out that it was David himself that was driving that Tesla, and that they put the Christmas tree air freshener in. He did, to mask the potential odor. Allegedly, he's innocent until proven guilty. But maybe there was an odor inside the car. They had the windows down, but it hadn't gotten strong enough. But to try to keep it from getting attention from neighbors, because he probably had plans to do something else with the car that day. So it sounds like Steve Fisher saw whoever did this inside David's mansion. So what are the odds that this is someone, who's not David? This person went out of town afterward. Again, who was traveling on his music tour, David. So I don't, to me, it's like not that hard to put the pieces together. This is my opinion. Let me know if you have a different one. But it does sound like the Christmas tree air freshener was added to try to mask any potential odor that was maybe just starting to show up in the car. I don't know when she was initially put in the trunk. But the fact that he left her in the trunk and put her a couple of streets over from his house in a $100,000 car, it's getting more and more difficult to believe that this would be somehow considered accidental. Because normally when someone that you care about has something terrible, an accident befalls them, or a medication issue, you call 911, because that's what people do when they love other people. They beg first responders, even if they think there's no hope at all, they will beg first responders to please try to resuscitate this person. So the whole idea that, well, I didn't know what to do, so I stuck her in the trunk. And, on July 29th, we don't know what day she was put in the trunk. That's the day that the car was moved over to its place. And whoever was in the car was the same person. Now, remember, Steve has access now to the security footage inside the mansion, as do the LAPD. And we're going to hear from the prosecutor in just a second. But I think he does drop some serious hints. One, we know whoever was driving the Tesla was inside the mansion. Two, we know whoever was driving the Tesla also went out of town. So I just don't think that any good and decent person is going to look at this and think that this wasn't an accident. So I think this is getting easier and easier for the prosecution to make their case. And I'll tell you why I believe this is so strong. If you think back to the Scott Peterson case with Lacey Peterson, right? When they found Lacey and Connor in the water where Scott had gone fishing, and this is even worse because this is in David's car. It's in his Tesla. So it's even looks worse. But, Scott, would try to say, well, somebody else put her in the water, whatever he wants to say. The jury was able to convict him, even though they couldn't say for sure how Lacey had passed away. All Scott could say was, well, somebody else did it. It was an abductor. But they were able to make the case. They were able to convict him. And he even got the capital punishment imposed, except that California commuted the sentence.
And I know that the viewers right now are screaming at the TV set saying, Ashley, ask him who it was.
I mean, I honestly wish I could tell you. I don't want to, I don't want to interfere with LAPD on that. And I think that's coming because we know a crime was committed 100%.
There it is. We know a crime was committed 100%. This is not an accident. She didn't fall into the front trunk of his Tesla and put herself into separate plastic bags. This was somebody who did this to her. And the fact that now we know who was, he knows, and the LAPD knows who was driving the car. They're just waiting for something, the toxicology to come back. And what are they going to be able to tell from the toxicology? Well, we're going to talk about that. Of what may have happened. So does the LAPD know who drove the Tesla to the spot that it was impounded from? That we know now it was July 29th. And in my opinion, we're going to find out that David was driving his own Tesla on July 29th, or he was sitting in the car with somebody who was driving it for him. And the fact that David is going to try to pretend he didn't notice that his $100,000 plus car wasn't in his possession is absolutely ridiculous. I don't think, any juror is going to believe that. To believe that David had nothing to do with it, had no knowledge of it, you would have to believe that his Tesla disappeared just around. He lived here, and the Tesla was around two corners. So if it's a square, the mansion's here, and the Tesla's found right here, right in like a square. So we're gonna have to believe that the car rounded two bends. It's all this technology in this car, but David didn't know. He didn't know. He didn't renew the tags. It had multiple tickets. Again, David, it's getting harder for him to say he didn't know. It could possibly be somebody in his entourage, but I don't think somebody in his entourage is going to be wanting to go to jail for David for the rest of their life. So, if I were a member of the entourage, I would probably start talking if I haven't already. So I always see people in the comment section going after Celeste's parents because they don't feel like Celeste, they didn't do enough to find Celeste. Listen, they reported her missing to police multiple times. They hung up missing posters. They posted on Facebook. People are like, oh, well, they didn't post enough. Listen, there's the family. If she was found in the family's trunk, I would be all over that. She wasn't. She was found in David's trunk of his Tesla. And now we're learning that whoever was driving that Tesla that parked the car to try to, I believe, hide where Celeste was. It was probably supposed to be temporary. 2 streets over. So mansion's here, Tesla's here. Whoever did that was in the house that day. So it's not her parents. So I hope we can just give that a rest and stop re-victimizing them because they have just had to have a funeral for their 14-year-old daughter. So let's talk about whether or not the jury will believe this, that David did this. Because I think they will. I absolutely think that they will believe this. Let me take this comment down. I didn't realize I was like blocking my own face this whole time. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that, Michael. I didn't mean to leave you up there the whole time. And bad actor says, not to mention he was doing something with Celeste. Yes, exactly. We're going to talk about that too. You're right. You are so right. So, please don't victimize the parents. There's no perfect victim out there, but there is no evidence that these parents did anything to Celeste. So let's talk about whether or not the LAPD has enough to charge Celeste in this case. And then we're going to talk about proof that David was, people knew what he was up to with Celeste. I'm watching my words. Why was the LAPD called out to the mansion? And we're going to listen to the prosecutor who has spoken out in this case. And we're going to talk about enhanced legal penalties that the perpetrator could be charged with, in addition to just like regular charges, but enhanced in just a second. So please stay with me. But let's talk about whether or not a jury will believe this, that David is responsible. I think that they will. I think this is the same guy. Remember, the guy that's going to try to claim that he didn't know that his Tesla was 2 streets around the corner from his house, $100,000+ Tesla, is the same guy who hired security guards wearing masks and glasses. One had a Kevlar vest on and a badge to videotape movers moving his stuff out of the mansion. He videotaped movers moving David's stuff out of the mansion, but we're supposed to believe David didn't notice that $100,000 Tesla was gone. Again, it's just one more piece of the puzzle. So what do the LAPD need to do to prove this case to the jury? Well, a legal expert was speaking with the U.S. Mirror, and he had a lot of details of what the LAPD might be looking for. His name is Brian Packett, and he shared that the footage, this footage that Steve Fisher has unearthed, and the LAPD has, I don't know who found it first, but he found it too, shared that the footage could be pivotal depending on what it was known about Celeste's movement and state of mind prior to her disappearance. He said, quote, if it helps establish a timeline or shows who she was last seen with, prosecutors and defense attorneys alike will rely on it to test theories about what happened to Celeste in her final hours. So this was an interview that he gave to the U.S. Mirror. So why do police need this footage to make their case? Well, the LAPD went to David's Hollywood home. They obtained security cameras when they served that search warrant. And the landlord revealed this, right? He told us this. So in the owner, not the landlord, the owner of the mansion. In addition to the mansion's security footage, they also seized items like computers and other electronics. So legal expert Brian Packett detailed that investigators, when they take such items, are usually looking for communication and data pertaining to the location of any other digital evidence that can be used to link the person to the victim or the person to the scene of the crime. So this can hold critical metadata such as timestamps. And remember, this Tesla had a lot of technology on board. So this will tell us if the cameras around the Tesla were disabled, when they were disabled, what date, who disabled them, right? So legal expert Brian Packett also shared, let me try to calm down because I'm like, whew, I just can't believe they have, I knew they were going to have good security footage because of the neighborhood. That neighborhood is very well to do. And so I knew they were going to have access to a lot of security footage, even if David or someone in his entourage turned off the security cameras on that Tesla. So this legal expert, Brian Packett, also said that there are often deleted files that can often be restored and help corroborate or contradict statements made by witnesses. And if I were in David's entourage, hearing that it was someone inside the mansion and that somebody drove the car to where Celeste, the car was ultimately impounded with Celeste inside, I would start talking now. We saw what just happened in the Emmanuel Harrow case, right? If Rebecca Harrow had been smart, she would have started talking right away, but she, isn't smart. And so Jake probably is going to get the better deal, even though I think it's more likely he's the perpetrator on this. So the legal expert, Brian, also shared why there would be a delay. So why are we waiting? Remember in the Scott Peterson case, that's why I was just like, everybody, let's take a breath, because I know everybody's upset. I know everybody wants justice right away. But just remember how long it took in the Scott Peterson case, right? They didn't know where Lacey and Connor were. They suspected, right? They thought they were probably in the water, but they didn't know. With Celeste, they do have Celeste. And she's been since released to her family, but they were able to at least know where she was. But think about how long it took for them to ultimately arrest Scott Peterson. Okay, so I just think we can just give the police a chance to get this done. So he went on to share that given the condition of Celeste and how she was found in the trunk, I'm watching my words here, that the medical examiner may never be able to say exactly what happened to Celeste. How did she pass? But forensic pathologists, he said, can still extract vital information from bone trauma, tissue residue, toxicology, and I believe we are waiting on the toxicology from the vitreous humor and other environmental factors to help narrow down the possibilities. But even if this doesn't happen, with Lacey, we still don't know how she ended up exactly in the water, right? When we know, we think Scott put her there, but we don't know what happened to her, how she actually did his crime. So if they can't do that, it doesn't mean they can't come forward with charges, okay? So the legal expert did offer a lot of hope. He said, quote, forensic pathologists can still extract vital information to narrow down the possibilities. But even if that cannot happen, they can still move forward with a case. So legal expert Brian Packett shared that the partial evidence could also shape the direction of the investigation. He said the arrest would be possible even without an established COD. And that's where I started thinking, what other cases in California have we done that? Well, Scott Peterson came to mind. And if you go back to the Scott Peterson case, you will remember that Lacey, just like Celeste, she was in the water for an extended period of time. She was pregnant with Connor when she was put into that water. And although they could never say for sure exactly how Scott did away with Lacey, they were still able to successfully prosecute Scott Peterson. So legal expert Brian Packett continued. He said, quote, prosecutors can bring charges if sufficient circumstantial or forensic evidence connects a suspect to a crime. So while a confirmed COD strengthens the LAPD's case, strengthens the prosecution's case, it is not an absolute requirement, especially if there's other physical and digital evidence that indicates foul play. The fact that somebody was on camera driving in that Tesla, parking it 2 streets away, and David never reported that his $100,000 Tesla was stolen, of course, because they would have found it, right? So clearly Celeste did not put herself in the trunk wrapped in plastic bags. So I think it's safe to assume that there was foul play involved. And if someone tries to claim that it was an accident, it's still going to be really difficult to explain how Celeste ended up in the trunk of David's $100,000 Tesla and how the Tesla just happened to be parked around the corner from David's mansion. And now we know that the LAPD knows who was driving the Tesla. So the walls are closing in fast on David, allegedly, in my opinion. Again, he's innocent until proven guilty. If it wasn't David, it was somebody in the mansion, because Steve told us, and somebody that travels too, right? So if you travel and you're part of David's entourage and you're like, happen to catch my show, my advice to you would be to go to the LAPD and tell them everything you know. Because if he gets there before you, you could end up having this pinned on you even when you didn't do it. So Scott Peterson, you will recall, he said he was tried to say he was out fishing. You know that, he tried to say he didn't have anything to do with what happened to Lacey. And they ultimately did bring charges. It took a little while against Scott Peterson, and they ultimately were able not only to get a conviction, but it was a capital punishment case. They got that too. The only reason that was never implemented is his sentence was commuted. So let's talk about proof that people knew what David was up to with Celeste. And then we're going to listen to the prosecutor talk about this case, and we're going to talk about enhanced legal penalties, not just regular legal penalties, but enhanced, and why that would be. But let's go. Let me pull this up. Okay. So I'm not going to play. Let me take this down. Let me take this down and put this up. Okay, so this is Dr. G. He's a body language expert. I'm not playing this for the body language. I just cannot find any other videotape of these two together. But I just want to play that little clip. I hope he's okay with my just playing this tiny little snippet of him. He is a language analyst, and he has a great YouTube channel.
And Celeste Rivas. Now, keep in mind, she would have been 13 years old when she went missing, and she may have known David even before then. Former teachers reported that he, in fact, is aware that there was information. But what we're going to be looking at today is Celeste Rivas and David.
So I'm playing his because I've had trouble finding this Twitch stream. I think somebody is deleting everything as fast as he can.
On a live stream, we're going to be doing a body language analysis. I can tell you what it is that I'm seeing. And just to complicate things a little bit further, there are reportedly 2 people with the name Celeste. There's also a 23-year-old with the name Celeste, according to Court TV and TMZ.
Now, she's already clarified that she never dated David, and I think he was trying to use her to distract.
See, this is Celeste Rivas, the girl who was found in the Tesla. This is a very brief clip from a live stream. Let's just jump right in. I'll talk about what we see, and then we'll talk about it some afterwards as well.
I media trained you.
No, you didn't.
That's controversial.
It's controversial of kids.
Okay, so that's the clip, and then after that, he tells his mods to delete everything.
You.
So as you can see, David has his hand on Celeste's shoulder. Now, what I want you to keep in mind with this is this can mean a number of different things. Sometimes it can be a way to show closeness, but it can also be a subtle means of control depending on the type of relationship. One thing I want you to also keep in mind is that this was not a private moment. They are comfortable showing themselves as close, portraying themselves as close in front of other people. And while this body language alone is not enough to say specifically the nature of the relationship or if it was an inappropriate relationship, this does indicate that they are more than just casual acquaintances.
And also, she was a runaway with a family actively looking for her. So I don't want to take away from anything from his channel. He does a great job analyzing this. It's definitely worth watching. But what happens after this is that, let me scroll down a little bit. So what happens after this is, hang on. Okay, so he says, I media trained you. That's controversial. And he places his hand on his shoulder. And she says, as controversial as you, and I'm watching my words here, SA-ing kids. And this is Celeste with the black hoodie on and the glasses that look like David's. And she quickly covers her mouth, apparently shocked, herself with the comment. And David moved to mute the live stream on Twitch. And of course, she uses the R word here instead of SA, right? She covers her own mouth, apparently like shocked that she would say something like this. David mutes the live stream before ending it together with a command to his fans, delete, and to his mods, delete everything, he tells the Twitch chat as Celeste purses her lips. Now the pair laugh and say, okay, bye, as the stream's turned off, but not before chat participants make a slew of comments about the SA joke. I don't think it's a joke. I think she was, teasing, maybe thought it was funny, but they said David Epstein flightless. That's what one person posted. So they're asking if David was flying on Epstein's Lolita Express. That was the name of his plane. That's what they called it. And then another person posted David and Celeste Island trip. Again, I believe they're referring to Epstein's Island. And then another one commented, oh no. Another one said canceled. And another one said end stream. So let's look at I didn't want to play his whole video because I think he does a great job with the analysis, but I also want to look at what the DA has to say about, the prosecutor has to say about this. So some people are saying this is the DA. My understanding is that this is the prosecutor. So let me just pull this up. Okay. So this is a top prosecutor.
This Celeste Rivas Hernandez investigation. A lot of people are interested in this.
It is currently under investigation.
Is David a suspect? Are there any suspects that you guys have on a list that you're keeping tight to vest? Is there?
So we don't discuss suspects or the points in a continuing investigation. When and if that case is presented to the DA's office and we make a decision on it, I'll make sure you're one of the first to know.
Thank you.
Okay, so the Los Angeles County District Attorney, Nathan Hochman, is also reminding people that the investigation remains ongoing. In a brief exchange with the TMZ videographer, DA Hochman was asked for an update on the case, which has garnered significant media attention. And he said, quote, it's currently under investigation. Asked specifically about D4VD, David, and any other potential suspects, DA Hochman reiterates the ongoing nature of the investigation, confirming that police have not presented him the case yet. So LAPD is still building their case.
Thank you. Where are we at with this Celeste Rivas Hernandez investigation? A lot of people are interested in this.
It is currently under investigation.
Is David a suspect? Are there any suspects that you guys have on a list that you're keeping tight to vest? Is there?
So we don't discuss suspects or the points in a continuing investigation. When and if that case is presented to the DA's office and we make a decision on it, I'll make sure you're one of the first to know.
Okay, so that's not a no. It's not a yes, but it's also not a no. Do you have that just means he hasn't gotten the case yet. He hasn't gotten the case yet. So let's continue on, because the police did pay a visit to David's Los Angeles rental mansion after 4:30 a.m., just 2 months before Celeste was found in the trunk of the car. And this was according to the U.S. Sun, who did make a FOIA, a Freedom of Information Act, on this. So let's see. Let's go through what they said about this. Let me pull it up. Okay. Take this down and share the screen with the article. Okay, so this is the article, and make sure you guys can see it, and I'm not blocking it. I am not. Okay, great. So this is talks about the rental mansion and this 911 call. So 2 months before Celeste was found in the trunk. So we know now that the car was parked July 29th. So this makes this 911 call even more significant, in my opinion, because if she was in the trunk July 29th, which is what, around 6 weeks before she was found, 6.5 weeks before she was found, this occurred 2 months before. So was there something going on that night? Was there some type of an altercation? So David's manager, Interscope Records, Josh Marshall, had been renting this $4.7 million mansion with 4 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, priced at $28,000 a month. And through the Freedom of Information request, they're showing a neighbor called 911 on Sunday, July 20th of 2025. So this is 9 days before the Tesla is moved from the mansion, which was here, around the corner, 2 corners, 1, 2, here. Okay. So 9 days before the Tesla is moved with Celeste in the trunk, we have this 911 call placed at around 4:38 regarding a, quote, public nuisance complaint. Unfortunately, the police didn't arrive until 8:57 a.m. So almost 3.5, 4 hours after the call was made. And the police for the LAPD said the noise problem was regarding loud music playing. But was it? Because we had heard from the neighbors that David had always been quiet. So was there something else going on and the music got turned up? Was this just a big distraction? Because again, now that we know the date that the Tesla was moved with Celeste in the trunk is July 29th, this makes this 911 call even more significant, in my opinion. The spokesperson for the LAPD said the noise problem was regarding loud music playing, but when the police got to the house, the situation was resolved. There was no other 911 calls made from February 2024, when David reportedly moved in, until September 25th, when his manager broke the lease and David moved out of the house. And we're supposed to believe that David moved himself out of the house while videotaping the movers, having 2 security guards videotaping the movers, but he didn't care about a $100,000 Tesla. Think about how that's going to play to a jury, right? It's not going to play to a jury. So David was on tour at the time she was found, but where was he on July 29th? Was he behind the wheel of the car? And where was he on the day that this noise complaint was called in? And did somebody turn up the music to cover up something else that happened 9 days before the Tesla was moved around the corner from the house? David's former neighbor claimed in a chat with U.S. Sun that he saw Celeste, and get this is really important. He saw David and Celeste, quote, all the time, and believed they lived together at the home. So we're going to talk about penalties for this. He said, I didn't know he was a singer. I knew he had a Tesla, as it was always parked outside until July 29th, right? He was with the girl regularly, all the time. He said, recognizing Celeste from photographs. He said, I'd be in my car and we'd acknowledge each other, say hi. That was about it. And then they were heading to the store or wherever. I did ask him about his Tesla as his car was hit, and he never fixed it. And then, you guys have asked about that hit and run too. He didn't really say what happened. The neighbor added, anytime I tried to talk to them, they just weren't very engaging. They kept to themselves. Well, they had a secret, right? The shush on both their fingers. I think it was a pact. Shh. This is the friends, told me that they found a girl in a car, but I didn't realize it was her at first. Now, the owner of the mansion, Mladen Trifanovic, said that what happened to Celeste came as a shock. So this 911 call, now that we know the date of Steve Fisher, of when that car was driven, when the car was moved from David's driveway or garage around the street on July 29th, this was called in 9 days before that car was moved. So to me, this makes the 911 call all the more significant. What do you think? Do you think this 911 call is significant? If you think yes, put a 1 in the chat. If you think no, put a 2 in the chat. Let's do a poll. So now we have the police paying a visit. Unfortunately, they didn't get there until hours later. But I think, boom, this is it, because now we have a neighbor saying they lived together. So David did not have custody of Celeste. He was not her parent. He was not her guardian. He did not have the right to keep her from her family at his mansion. He did not have the right to keep her from attending school. And so I think that this is also going to be a big problem for David. So now we know that we have photographs or video of somebody driving the Tesla to where it was ultimately found with Celeste in the trunk. And the mansion owner claimed that police took the footage from his security cameras, but they were likely, he doesn't know if they were turned on or not. He said they were likely not turned on, but he says he didn't turn them on. So did David turn them on? It's hard to believe that a singer wouldn't have turned on security cameras, but so on August 27th, 11 days before Celeste was found in the front trunk of his Tesla, a parking violation was issued over the car's tire position. Then we have on September 3rd, a second ticket was issued before the car was removed from the neighborhood just a few days later. And Celeste was found in the front trunk of the Tesla after she was at the tow yard, the impound lot. They smelled something and they called the police. So Celeste started hanging out with David, at least from what we can prove so far, when she was 13 years old. I believe he was engaging with her online sooner, but the soonest that I've physically seen him with her is when she was 13. It doesn't mean she wasn't there sooner. But a lot of people have brought up, well, she used fake IDs. David's going to try to say he didn't know. I'm sure he's going to try to say he didn't know. But the fact that there's that video that I just showed you with Dr. G, that, it's like I think it's being, somebody's deleting everything, right? I'm sure the police have it. Shows that, they were together. She had on big glasses and a hoodie to try to hide who she was, but you can see it's her. So I think if she did have fake IDs, if that's what he's going to try to claim, I think then the next question is going to be then how did a 13 or 14-year-old get fake IDs? Who procured those for her? Who paid for those? So let's talk about the enhanced legal penalties the perpetrator could be charged with in California. So in California, is it illegal for a 19 or 20-year-old to have a relationship and live with a 13 or 14-year-old missing runaway? No, it's not legal. In fact, Celeste couldn't consent to anything. The age of consent in California is 18. So any type of activity 18 or over with a minor can be prosecuted as statutory. And even if the minor willingly participates, it doesn't matter. If the minor is 14 and David, who was 20, is more than 3 years older, this can be charged as either a misdemeanor or a felony, and a conviction could result in up to 3 years in jail. If she was 13 years old and he had been 21, which he was not, then it's even harsher. Now, while there are generally no laws against a 20-year-old and a minor dating without any type of SA context, the adult is against the law for them to provide them with alcohol, to take them into establishments, if any of the friends saw them drinking, to harbor them from parents who are actively searching for them. It is illegal for an adult to have a missing child living with them without the consent of the child's parents or legal guardians. And in this case, these parents did not consent for her to live with David. Keeping a missing or runaway child from authorities is a serious crime that can result in felony or misdemeanor charges for such offenses, including custodial interference, harboring a minor, kidnapping, and depending on the circumstances, penalties can vary. So in this case, because she ended up in the trunk of the car, because she was reported missing, because she was actively law enforcement was actively searching for her, I think the penalties are going to be as much as they're going to throw the book at him. So it can be, like providing shelter for a minor for like 24, 48 hours is illegal in most states, but probably isn't going to get you years in jail, right? But, if she was there for months, and this is custodial interference. If a child is intentionally kept away from their lawful guardian, this can be prosecuted and usually is prosecuted as a felony. Now, kidnapping in most severe cases is when the child is taken without the parent's consent. And so he could face federal kidnapping charges. So especially if he was traveling with her, right, across state lines. So what is the importance of legal authority? Well, the law prioritizes the rights and safety of children and adults who do not have, they don't have the legal authority to determine if a minor can stay with them and that they can keep this minor away from their legal guardian for any reason. There's no reason in the world that David can say that he had the right to keep Celeste away from her parents, even with good intentions. Sheltering the minor, a missing child, without legal permission is against the law. So did David contribute to the delinquency of a minor? So this covers a really wide range of actions that encourage a child to engage in illegal behavior. Now, the court could interpret this as encouraging a child to run away. In this case, we know that she was running away. TMZ said there was a black car out of the camera view that we saw. I'm sure police may have another view of it, that somebody was picking her up when she was running away. So kidnapping, while less common for simple runaway situations, a kidnapping charge could be filed depending on the specifics of the case, especially when the adult takes the child across state lines. So did he ever travel with her? Then we have endangering the welfare of a child. A state may consider an adult's encouragement of a child to run away and face the dangers of being homeless to be child endangerment. So this charge could also be brought. The child's age. The legal consequences are more severe when the child is younger and less able to care for themselves. But what was David's intent? What was the adult in this situation's intent? A court will examine what the adult's motive was. And I think in this case, we can guess. Encouraging a child to run away, to escape a home that they're not happy in, is viewed differently than encouraging a child to run away and live with you for a romantic relationship. The child's safety. If the child is harmed, and in this case, she was found in the front trunk of the Tesla, so that's a yes. The adult who encouraged them to run away can face more serious charges. So what does California Penal Code 278 on child abduction say about all of this? We're going to go through that next. Let me check in. I'm curious. I did the poll. I want to see where you guys are at. If I'm looking for ones and twos. Come on in. If you're watching, come on up and talk to me. I'm scrolling back. I see a one. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Okay, I found it. All right, so we're doing the poll. Kaloa SF says he leased the red Tesla in February. Very interesting. Thank you for modding today, Njaz. YouTube Bad Actor put a 1. Chris Ann put a 1. Jenny said unbelievable. Tara, thank you for modding today. Put a 1. Dee Dee, thank you for modding. She said Jessica is the best true crime. Oh, that's so sweet. That's just so sweet. Thank you, Dee Dee. Urban put a 1. K Bling, thank you for modding today. Put a 1. Kaloa SF says the other rental house was put back on the market in March. You do the math. Kaloa put a 2. Michael put 1. Thank you for modding today, Michael. This is our head mod, Michael. Oop, I got stuck. Let me unstick myself. All right. I showed it for a second. There we go. 1. Lori agrees. Oh, thanks, Lori. Thanks for modding today. Janine says, thank you. This greatly appreciated. Thank you, Janine. Nana put 1. Lori put a 1. Mike said, the community has spoken. There are probably quiet because they might have a unique scenario as crazy. It gets almost something that is hard to believe. Well, very interesting. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. Bailey put a 2. Janine put a 1. It's really weird he didn't renew the tags. Dee Dee put a 1. Thanks for modding today, Dee Dee. And Jazz is our other head mod with Mike. She put a 1. Thank you so much for modding today, and Jazz. And Jazz helped me out with some research too. So thank you for that, and Jazz. Kaloa says he also rented 604 North Delaney, and it can be seen on his photos and videos. They match the Zillow pics online. Go look for yourself. Thank you. I would like to do that. Hopefully Justice doesn't sleep on this one. I don't think it is. I don't think it is. Janine says, yes, the family did whatever they could. YouTube Bad Actors thinks Casey Anthony vibes for sure. And Michael, hey, good to see you. Thanks for joining me today. Delta says, David didn't expect social media to get involved. This is where he miscalculated this act. Yeah, great point. You don't ever know like what cases are going to go viral, right? But it is what it is you can go online in certain states and renew your tags. He wanted no part of that car, in my opinion. Great point. Kevin thinks he's guilty. All of his music videos. Yeah, we went through that on the last live stream where we talked about that. Michael said, I don't think he knew Celeste would be found. Thanks for modding today, Lori. Bailey thinks he has a savior complex. Very interesting. Tara says, whoever they have driving the car is the one who needs to worry the most, in my opinion. Hey, Julie. And the mic says, yeah, seems like the PI knows what's up. Yeah, I can't wait either. I'm with you on that. All right, so we have a pretty good idea where we're at on that. Let's go through this penal code 278 together, because I think there's a number of things they could charge him with, right? A number of things beyond what you would think, they could charge him with. I think it's not going to be if he's charged. I think it's going to be how many things are they charged with. So California Penal Code 278 on child abduction says this law applies when an adult with no right of custody maliciously takes or entices a child away from their legal guardian. And I've shared with you that I believe that he would have enticed her. I don't think so much she was running away from her family. And the reason I believe this is she was returning home to visit. I think that he was, ginning up what would be considered normal teenage angst. This doesn't mean her parents were perfect, okay? We don't need the victims. There's no perfect victims. If you dig through anybody's life, you know, they don't have to be perfect to still be victims in this. But their daughter is gone forever. They had to have a funeral for their daughter. So, if you can't see them with sympathy, and I know most of you guys can, but the one or two people out there that, just want to be unkind, I don't know what to tell you. If you don't have that kind of compassion and empathy in your heart for the parents of Celeste, I don't know what to tell you. You're just not, it's sad. It's sad for you. So this applies when an adult entices a child away from their legal guardian. I do believe that's what happened here. And I believe that's why it's so important, that video of her running away and there's that car just waiting. That's crucial. The adults, they're going to look at the penalties. Okay, so this can be what's called a wobbler offense, which means it can be charged as willfully enticing them away can be charged as either a misdemeanor with up to 1 year in jail or as a felony up to 4 years in jail, just for this one count, not for everything. But the fact that there are aggravating factors, in my opinion, can increase these penalties. So the severity of the charges and the penalties increase dramatically if the enticement was for SA purposes. In this case, the adult could face prosecution for even more serious crimes. So was there an SA component? If the enticement, and this is where, if I were in his entourage and I knew something, I would start talking now. If the enticement was intended to commit any type of inappropriate acts, they could be charged under Penal Code 2883, which is contacting a minor with the intent to commit a felony, or Penal Code 2884, which is arranging a meeting with a minor for, illegal purposes, SA purposes. So is the sentencing for SA stronger for SA intent? Penalty Code 2883 can result in up to 8 years in state prison. Okay, that's just for that one count. And a conviction under these statutes often requires a lifetime as a SO registration. And I think the fact that they found Celeste in the front trunk of his Tesla, I think they should throw the book at him. So kidnapping, in cases where force or fraud is used, that can be escalated to kidnapping, Penal Code 207. So I guess my question is, did Celeste want to go home? And is this how she ended up in the trunk of David's Tesla? What do you guys think? Are you watching closely? It's also worth noting that kidnapping a child under the age of 14 carries enhanced penalties up to 11 years per count in state prison. So what say you guys? I just really want to check in and see where you guys are at on this. Yeah, please don't write in all caps, and please give this a thumbs up. It lets the YouTube algorithm know that I'm doing a good job. It lets them know to go ahead and push the video out, and it does help me out. Subscribe if you can. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, and it does help me out a lot. I Speak My Truth says she was young and in love and wanted to be with David. That's why she wasn't at home. I agree. You're right. I agree with that. And Jazz says 230 watching, only 84 likes. Yeah. Can you guys help me out, please? Just a little bit. Okay. It's free. All right. Janine says Steve Fisher said they can't charge someone for planning a crime. They can't charge someone for planning a crime but not committing it. But there is something called conspiracy. I Speak My Truth said we've all been that age. Yeah. Red Cloud, thank you so much for modding today. This is Red Cloud's first day modding. And Cabling, thank you so much for modding. And Justice, if you have any information or tips, you can email me at tips4jessica@outlook.com. That's tips4jessica@outlook.com. So if you have any tips or ideas, I have people sending me links to stuff that helps. Sometimes I have it already, but sometimes I don't. Thank you so much to all of our mods today. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. Leslie says, children, teens don't run away in a loving home. The parents did not get along. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it was loving or not, right? It doesn't matter. So she said, don't run away. You're saying that they don't run away from a loving home. They do. If they're being enticed away from the house, that's not always true. So I just want to be really careful because there's no evidence that these parents didn't love Celeste. Show me some evidence before you victim blame and victim shame. Please show me something. Show me some evidence. She wasn't in their trunk. They may not have been perfect. I don't know. But who out there is perfect? There's no perfect victims. And if that's the only way you can be a victim is if you're perfect, it's just not going to happen. Yeah, taking her across state lines. If he ever traveled with her and went on tour with her, and Julie thinks he did encourage her. So it's okay if somebody disagrees. We don't all have to agree. This is a critical thinkers channel. Sabrina thinks the case is taking too long. His money and time will get him a lesser charge. Maybe. It didn't. Well, we'll see. I do want to say thank you to NJAS for gifting a reporter room membership. If you got that membership, please make sure you say thank you to NJAS. And NJAS, thank you so much. That's so nice of you. So nice of you, NJAS. And then she gifted, oh my gosh, 5 reporter room memberships. Wow. Thank you so much, NJAS. If you got one of those 6 reporter room memberships, please make sure you say thank you to NJAS. And thank you, Michael, for the $1.99 super sticker. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. And thank you, NJAS, for the 20 pounds super sticker. That is so kind of you. Thank you so much. And I will be putting that toward the channel, you guys. I will let you know what we're going to do with it. I don't know yet because I haven't been really thinking about it, but I will let you know. Bailey says, what about what his psychiatrist says? He's 13 in his head and thought it was fine. It doesn't matter. I mean, you could say that about I don't think it's going to matter. Do you? What do you guys think? Do you think that if a psychiatrist takes a stand and says he was, younger than his age, he was 20 years old. She was 14. That's a big gap. It's not like it's close, like she's 17, like 3-year gap. There's less, if it's like a 3-year gap, it's a lesser penalties, but it's a big gap. Cabling says, David, in my opinion, is guilty of coercing her and manipulation of a minor. Dandy Linus says she would not have left if he had discouraged her from doing so. Right. I agree. Hi, Soup. It is sad. PGH Deb says 1. Thank you for that. Michael says, please help in the chat. Yeah, thank you to all our mods for greeting everybody and all your kindness to everyone. But we don't want to delete somebody just because they don't agree with me. Mod Boss. Michael, you have a new nickname. Mod Boss. Hi, Rianne. Hi. All right. So come on in. Tell me what you guys think about this. Do you think that they should be filing the maximum penalty? Yes or no? I'm just curious. Didi said, I already asked her not to do it. Okay. That's all right, Didi. Don't worry. I'm sure she was supplied with another cell phone so he could keep up with her, perhaps allegedly, in my opinion. Yeah, we don't know what happened with her cell phone. Kaloa says the LAPD did not protect this poor girl. Sabrina said, we don't, for all we know, they could have gone to the house, and maybe we'll find that out during the trial. Wouldn't that be a twist, right? To find out that they did go to the house looking for her, and he said that she wasn't there. Sabrina said, do we know anything about his manager? Just what I've shared so far. The more I've looked into this is just my opinion. I don't think the manager had anything to do with it other than, I don't know if he knew Celeste was there. So I shouldn't say that. I don't know that one way or the other. But I don't think he was the one that was in the house 12 hours before Celeste disappeared. I don't think he was the one driving the Tesla. And I don't think he's the one that went out of town right after. He did 804. Thank you so much, Dandy Lioness, and welcome to the Reporter Room chat. I'm so glad you're here. People know stuff. That's why I think you're right. Soup says, I think somebody swatted his parents' house because of a guilty conscience. I don't know. Some people feel like he did it himself. Some people feel like it was somebody else. I don't know if we'll ever find out. Hopefully law enforcement, but nobody should be bothering his family. Nobody should be bothering anybody. Norma says, nope, the parents have nothing. I'm not sure what that means. Brian says, I was wondering the same thing because the California law says that when a person moves into the state, their vehicle registration must be changed to California registration within 20 days. Kaloa says he was hoping for it to get towed and destroyed by the junkyard, but he forgot to pay off the junkyard like they did in Pulp Fiction. Soup says, Soup-a-loop, that's cute. If I own a Tesla and haven't seen it in months, I'm reporting it stolen. Thank you. And I think this is what the jury's going to think too. I think they're going to be right there with you, Soup-a-loop. They're going to feel like, sorry, I'm not laughing because it's like, but I think like common sense, just common sense. If you have $100,000 vehicle and you noticed it was gone and you're You're going to videotape the movers while they're moving your stuff out, right? Juxtapose that with the idea that this man is probably going to try to say he didn't know his Tesla was missing, right? I just don't think a jury's going to buy it. Veronica said, I think it's going to be pretty pathetic if Steve found his camera footage. So she's talking about SF Investigates before the police. They've had long enough. Well, we don't know to go through any cameras or neighborhood. We don't know if, we don't know if they already had it or not. We don't know. We know that he gave it to them, and we know that he doesn't want to mess up their case. But it sounds like Steve at SF Investigates is doing a good job investigating this case. Delta says best coverage on the case. Oh, thank you, Delta. That's really sweet. That's really kind. But it is what it is. Says with him being an international star, are they going to have to go the extra mile to clear him? Other countries will want no part of him. Yeah, that's true. Kaloa says, remember the wolf in Pulp Fiction? David had no wolf. Oh, okay. Was that the fixer? Was the wolf the fixer, Kaloa? Lori said, I've never even heard of him before, but it is what it is. Yeah. Julie said he could have hired someone to park the car. We just don't know for sure. Yeah, please don't victim blame. Don't do that to the parents. They don't deserve that. They've maybe they were perfect. Maybe they weren't perfect. It doesn't matter. She wasn't found in the trunk of their car. So let's just, be kind. In a world where you can be anything, let's try to be kind to the parents. They're victims. Erico, let me see if I'm saying your name right. Erico Tiga. Eric Ortega. I bet you that's the name. David needs to go to jail, man. Thank you so much for the $4.99 super sticker. That is really kind of you. Thank you so much. And we're going to be doing the Lily and Jack Sullivan case today, too. Dee Dee is putting up purple hearts. Let's do purple hearts for Celeste today. I just, to honor her, to just think about her in your emojis here in our comment section, but in other people's comment sections, too. And let's just say her name, Celeste Rivas Hernandez, 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Let's say her name. Thank you, PGHW. Oop. So thank you for the purple hearts. Thank you for the thumbs up, PGHW. Kaloa says, SF Investigate said they found evidence. Yeah, I saw that too. I saw that. I just couldn't, wasn't sure what that meant. Let me see if I can find something on that. Hold on. It almost makes me wonder. I want to be careful what I say. It almost makes me wonder if she was, if like something awful happened to her. Let me just pull this up. So this is what he said. And please don't use the word in the chat. Okay. Just put sad thing. And if you need to say essay or something like that, you could say PDF file. Okay, so TMZ, according to TMZ, Steve Fisher recently appeared on Long Crime. I did watch that interview with Jesse Weber. He argued for his belief that there was an alleged SAD with a statistic plan to get rid of Celeste, but this of her. But it sounds like she was already not there. So I'm just wondering, but the scary part of it doesn't have anything to do with the circumstances of how she passed away. Rather, it was with the disposal process. So we've heard, I'm going to really watch my words here. We've heard that she was found in bags. Trigger warning here, guys. We've heard that she was found in bags, multiple bags. So that's why, there's going to be no way. And I agree with you, Eric. There's no way that his songs are going to help his case. We went through that together during the last live stream. Super sticker. That is really kind of you. So let's talk about that a little bit more now. And I just want to make sure I have it Cassie says, such a precious little beauty. Yes, she was. So, for those of you that weren't here, I already did this. This is proof that her family was looking for her. He refers to the Hello Kitty girl, and you can see here, she was wearing Hello Kitty sandals. We have lots of pictures in David too, with, selling these red painted shirts, bloody t-shirts. This is his manager. The more I look into this, the more I just do not think this guy had anything to do with it. This is David. Got to the point where I don't even cringe when I see it no more. And what's he talking about here? He's talking about gore and video. And you guys put those two words together and look at it yourself. But there is so many disturbing things that he posted. This is another one where he's talking about how much he loves it. D4VD with the crown. This is what he likes. This is what he's into. And he says, I want to tell everybody about how this is somebody, Ponzello, trying to sound the alarm. Absolutely trying to sound the alarm. And this is when she would have been 11, 12, October 2022. Is Celeste in here? And unfortunately for Celeste, she was. So this is another video of where somebody tries to ask who Celeste is, right? Not a question, but David's response is that, are you a Fed? And then this is David saying, when your card declines therapy and they bring you in, that one Hello Kitty girl, remember when she was missing, she had Hello Kitty sandals on, that you met in 2021. So she would have been what, 10 or 11 at that point? And you can see he's wearing Hello Kitty shirt. Ponzello, God bless him, was trying to sound the alarm. Celeste herself sounded the alarm. And then the lyrics that you guys are talking about, just how disturbing they are. Save your tears, 7 years. And a lot of people feel like that he wrote this because she was, underage at the time. And in 7 years, she would be 18, which is the age of consent in California. This is definitely Celeste Rivas Hernandez with David. That is her. That is also Celeste. So there's plenty of evidence that they were together. And then we have these disturbing comments that he made. In the back of my mind, I killed you with a K. And this is Celeste wearing a blue wig, and David I believe it's the same wig. If it's not, they bought, the same wig. But it probably is the same wig. Which is, there's just so many connections with Celeste and David. There's so many ways to prove that they were together. And the whole situation is really, really sad. Because Celeste should still be here. She deserves to still be here. She deserves so much better than to be put into the trunk of this man's Tesla and parked around the corner. It is tragic. You're right. It is. Thank you for your empathy and compassion. Jamilka says, Celeste Rivas Hernandez, may the angels guard her. That's beautiful. Allison said, his music is not art, it's trash. Yeah, please watch what words you use. You can use SK to say that, or red rum. Jenny said it was David was picking her up at school. He had no permission to pick her up, a minor. No, he didn't. Cassie said, I mean, any little girl who saw his lifestyle and him being famous and her struggling the way she did would have thought she probably felt like Cinderella. She probably really did. I believe she loved him. I do believe that she loved him. Lori says she wouldn't call it music. Cabling says the music stinks. Why do kids think it's okay? Well, as I shared with you guys, I do think that I loved what, I can't think of his first name, but his last name is Beard, that I shared with you guys, where he talked about this. What if we're making these kind of comments about animals? Would there be an outcry then? Why are we normalizing this when it comes to women and girls. And I, I agree with his take on that. I think that's really, really savvy take. Well, guys, I'm going to be doing a live stream on the Lily and Jack case. We have breaking news in that case also, but I want to say thank you to our producers, Jazz, Sasha Angel, George Brown, Michael L. Cole, and Christy Ballantyne. And thank you to all of our channel members. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for being channel members. I'm so grateful to each and every one of you guys. Subscribing is free. Channel members is, I believe, $2.99 a month. You certainly don't have to do it, but if you want to support the channel, you can hit the join button, which is next to the subscribe button. If you were in the top chat today, NJAZ gave away 6 channel memberships today. So maybe you got one of those, because guess what? We're having a channel members only live stream after we cover the Lily and Jack Sullivan case today. We're going to do a members only live after that. So if you got a members only, today's a great day to do that. And we have lots of videos and live streams that are for members only, but that's going to be one of them. And I also just want to say a special shout out. Thank you so much. Ooh, I'm stuck. There it goes. Super thanks and coffee gratitude. Thank you so much for all of your super thanks and coffee. And thank you so much for your gifted channel memberships. I'm just so grateful to each and every one of you guys. Thank you. All right, guys, I'm headed over to do Lily and Jack right now. Thank you so much for coming by to spend a little bit of time with me. And please consider subscribing, and I will see you on the next one. I'll be doing another live stream in 2 to 3 days. But if there's breaking news, just like I did in the Emmanuel Harrow case, obviously I'll be going live before that.